Whole Cake Island is quite the overlooked arc, with what it brought to the table, such as Luffy's tests of character that contrast him with Big Mom, Katakuri being an excellent antithesis to Luffy, as well as great setup and payoff to many major plot points. Perhaps the biggest accomplishment comes from what Oda dubbed at its start the Year of Sanji, which went misunderstood by those disappointed in him not getting a cool battle victory, which is flawed from the ground up for reasons we'll get to later. In actuality, Oda succeeded very well at this proclamation, with this arc being what recontextualized many parts and a triumphant display of Sanji's character. Perhaps the most obvious aspect is his attitude towards women, something that could be very hit or miss as the series went on, with some displays flanderizing this aspect of his character. This would continue being an overly caricaturish aspect of him, if not for exploring his background and psychology thoroughly. With it being revealed his female family members were the only ones to show him any kindness, and Zeph later being the first positive male role model for him, and having him take Zeph's mindset very seriously, caused him to place women on a pedestal, with his own inner thoughts to women, such as Nami or Robin, tend to be ones of nurturing affection, such as making meals as he did for his mother. In other words, Sanji is the one character in anime whose Oedipus complex can rival Shinji's. His attitude towards women is then given some tests when it comes to Puddin. Though Sanji had been shown to see the best in malicious women, those were instances where he had the clarity to see their true intent. Puddin was a more difficult challenge in her true intent being something even she couldn't discern due to her conditioning, with her positive qualities only being brought out through Sanji thrown aside all context around the situation to appreciate what he found beautiful and turn a major flaw of his into a strength. This ties into the running trend with Sanji, in that his genuine chivalric actions have more genuine effect on the women around him than his typical hyperbolic actions, as we see with Viola in Dressrosa, and instances here such as defending Cosette or his kindness to Puddin. It's in here that Sanji acts as a role model to the series' target audience of young or teenage males who may have difficulties when it comes to pursuing women, with Sanji's displays in this arc specifically of one's kindness being presented in a serious motivated manner as an attractive quality. I mean, Sanji's looks and strength are a big natural advantage too, but that's not what Oda was focusing on. There's then his role as a cook, that, despite being his main role and part of his goal, is something that gets a surprising lack of discussion amongst fans compared to his battle prowess stacked up to someone like Zoro, which has always been strange when Sanji is the only member of the monster trio whose ranking in strength amongst the crew isn't related to his goal. Luffy needs to be strong enough to defeat the main enemy antagonizing his crew, and Zoro's desire to be the strongest swordsman necessitates strength that could one day surpass Mihawk. Sanji's role as a cook and goal to find the All Blue, however, aren't ones that necessitate top-tier strength, with his fighting prowess simply being a means to an end in defending the crew, and honestly make his displays of strength even more impressive due to that. Even though things such as his role as a punching bag on the power scale against Ferrigor and Doflamingo concurrently was an annoying treatment of him, though at least with the context of him having a handicap against Ferrigor and Doflamingo acknowledging his strength. Sanji isn't a character who requires victory in battle in terms of progressing towards his goal. I've talked before about how the idea characters need to be given a victory against a minor enemy just for the sake of it is completely vapid, if not adding anything to their character. Thankfully, the closest major opponent in the manga for Sanji this could apply to is maybe Wadatsumi, but that wouldn't be the case if a different outcome to the scuffles with Nichi or Judge were offered, as him not defeating them provided a lot more to his character arc than had he beaten them. To have the best of both worlds, it's not as though impressive feats are absent for Sanji in this arc, with him showing how his effort trumped natural superiority in being stronger than Yonji, as well as compete with Daifuku and overpower Oven, who are treated as at least least comparable to someone who could block a punch from Gear 3rd Luffy. The victory Sanji needed was provided in his skills as a cook, in recreating a cake in which the ingredients had to be precisely those to satiate Big Mom's cravings. The other victory and test for Sanji's character was in his selfless nature. Things such as him initially throwing his dream aside for his loyalty to Zeph, willingness to sacrifice himself on Thriller Bark, or what was treated as a gag scene at Punk Hazard, paint Sanji as the most selfless of the Straw Hats. It's in this arc that this aspect of his character is explored in depth by including the darker side to this in Sanji's upbringing of being treated as inferior, along with disdain towards his bloodline, having him see his own desires as worthless compared to those around him. This even includes his own desires towards women, where, beyond what Oda treats as natural curiosity of a young man, tend to be primarily those of assuring a woman's well-being. All this makes Luffy encouraging Sanji to say what he wants to do rather than what he feels obligated to, an important scene to his wider character arc. We see this delivered on during the events of Wano, where Sanji's newfound willingness to let his own wants be fulfilled rather than being a martyr to others has him be willing to ask Robin to help him and acknowledge what he said to Usopp at Eni's lobby, with this ideal extending to even the female crew members that had purely been those to protect prior. There's also his use of the raid suit, despite his hatred for Germa, which adds to his character choices here. His ability to move beyond the Vinsmoke identity against Queen being something more difficult to do if having not clashed with and gained closure towards his past on Whole Cake Island. Beyond that though, it can be seen Sanji's character is otherwise unchanged in the arcs following Whole Cake Island, which is the other side of testing his character. Unlike with someone whose role in the plot was comparable, like Robin in Water 7, Sanji didn't require huge changes to his mannerisms or goals, and was instead tested on his current ideals towards cooking, women, family, and his own desire to showcase his strength of character, and have his character traits manifest in a slightly more refined way than before. It's with these that Sanji cemented himself as a core of the Whole Cake Island arc, which provided far greater insight towards many of the character traits to elevate the writing around him, and help bring him towards a more refined version of his character that we will get as the story reaches its climax. On the subject of character arcs, the video on Wano will focus on one of two characters. As for which one, I'll leave that open to a vote, so check out the channel's community page after this and stay tuned.